Hey, Princeton family, we're joined by Joel and Hailey Altena. They're in Lithuania. We just want to check in with them and see how they're doing, see how we can pray for them. So without further ado, we have a couple of questions for you guys.
How quickly or when did you guys start working from home, and how did that change how you were doing ministry with the students on campus?
Yeah, so I think the whole thing started on about March 18, that week, the week of March 18, I think. And then we've been in it ever since. And yeah, just trying to care for students from like abroad. So like Haley's position, the Student Success Center is, tutoring help and probation students and all sorts of things. So she is constantly calling students over the last 6 weeks, giving them support, helping them get their classes done, encouraging them to even log into Moodle, which is our online platform, because some students even struggled to, find like, how do I get online learning and how does that work? And how do I start doing the studying or the readings and what to do. So that felt overwhelming for a lot of students. And so there's a lot of encouragement we had to do there.
Yeah, I mean, in the student life team, like everything has looked totally different. We had a lot of programming left in the end of the year in terms of, final things, or also like certain, kinds of weeks that we were going to do. But we started a student care initiative where every day was like a different theme, like Monday message from the president, Tuesday tips, like helpful study things or whatever, worship Wednesdays, softball Thursdays, and then photo contest Friday, and then
Super Saturdays, and Sabbath Sunday.
Yeah, so each day had like a theme, and then every day we posted something but encouraged students to get offline because they were really struggling with, all the screen time, and their eyes were tired and didn't want to be resting online while also working online. So yeah, we've had to be pretty creative in like changing everything, but it's been actually I feel like it was really good. People were really into it. Mm-hmm.
But then also thinking like with the student care initiative, we were thinking like really holistically about the students. So like, where are they at spiritually? Where are they at mentally? Are we encouraging like physical activity? So we posted some workouts at different times. Are we thinking about them emotionally, as students, academically, all those sorts of areas? We're trying to think like, are we providing help and support in all these areas? Like, we're not just focused on academics. Like, yes, we want to have a high caliber academic program, but we have a bunch of faculty who are in that, and here in the Student Success Center. And so for us in the student life team, it was saying, how can we support them in those other ways? Many of who like were for 2 weeks after spring break self-isolated in a place. And then after that, who were with 2 or 3 roommates in a residence hall room and sort of stuck between there and their kitchen on their floor for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So it's been an interesting shift. We pretty much had to drop everything we were doing. So like our chapel series, we started a different thing and started doing a series on leading up to Easter. And then we did some post-resurrection appearances in our chapel series. And we were doing an Alpha program, if you guys know what Alpha is. So that was a really good program. We had about 65 students this semester involved with it who had never done Alpha before. We've been doing Alpha for 3 years here before we came even. They were doing Alpha, and so 65 is a great number to have because that's quite a few students, a good percentage of our population. And they were all engaging and stuff. And then we tried to do it online, but it just didn't work. Like 1 or 2 students got on each night, and we decided to put that hold on that, and then we'll pick it up in the fall again with the retreat and the different other elements that Alpha has included in it. So
do a lot of students, are they from Lithuania, or are they kind of from all over Europe, or did they go back home, or?
Yeah, normally our student body is 30% Lithuanian, and then the rest come from a lot of students from Ukraine, a lot from Russia, but then, I mean, we have like 50 other different countries. So it's quite a wide span. For some, it just depended on like how quickly their borders closed. So the Ukrainian border closed decently quickly. So the Ukrainian students tried to get home really quickly. And the American students had to get home really quickly too, because we had a number of study abroad students who, like the program was kind of canceled, I guess, in some way. So they had to get home quickly. It kind of just depended on like how quickly they could get out of the country. But we even had it where like, a few students had to be driven to the border and then, get another car. So it was like this whole logistical mess to try to get people back. Some people did stay on campus though, just because it was easier, and like their notes were here and their computer was here. Because that was one of the other issues we had too, is that students, left for spring break to go home and then were stuck, but all their stuff was at school, like all their clothes and whatever. So our residence life team has been working to like try to pack up their things remotely and put it in storage for the summer. So
so we have 400 students in our residence halls normally, and right now we have about 120, 130-ish.
Okay.
So that gives you a picture of like how many have actually stayed on campus.
Sure.
All the Lithuanians have gone home, so anyone we have left is pretty much someone who's not from Lithuania.
Sure.
And there's a variety of circumstances. Like some just chose to stay because they couldn't afford a flight home. Others, they're from countries where there are conflicts happening and it's not really safe to go home. Yeah. And so they stayed in the residence halls there too. So yeah, like there are a wide variety of reasons why they stayed, but we're trying to continue to provide programming into the summer for them, because the majority of them, I think we have over 120 now, who are committed to staying through May and maybe for the rest of the summer. So we're thinking, what about supporting them for summer work? And what about offering classes online over the summer? Because some of them, had to take incompletes on certain classes this semester because of how crazy things were. And so, like, how do we keep them on their program and keep them on track to graduate when they want to graduate?
Yeah.
So those are all things that, play into it.
Yeah.
So I read in a recent update that you guys send out that you guys aren't heading back here to the U.S.
No.
So what does the summer look like now for you differently? It sounds like trying to help out these 120 some students, but what else is going to be different now compared to what you had anticipated?
Right. Yeah. It's just a little bit of an adjustment. I mean, we have a lot of big projects that we work on in the downtime. So we actually had graduation today. It wasn't really an actual formal graduation. We pushed graduation to December, but we did a celebration with our seniors and a watch party on Facebook. And so today marks the very end of the semester, and now next week we begin our summer work and adjusting to that. The biggest things that we're working on right now are like looking at our programs and looking at the content of those programs to revitalize them in different ways. So I'm working on our leadership development program. We have 60 students about on campus who serve in some capacity. So I have 6 next year in my office. Hailey will have 12 next year in her office, and then a variety of other students in different places who just help out and lead different things on campus. And so I'm looking at that program. We have a curriculum that we go through with them and different readings we do. And we're just, working on that, revamping that, making sure it's ready for the fall. Hailey's working on her first year seminar curriculum. So she runs a class for every freshman who comes that helps integrate them to college life and what it looks like to be a student at LCC. And she's working on a whole revitalization of that. We're going to be doing some videos and filming things and helping to, just get that all ready for the fall. And then, as you guys know in the US as well, we don't really know what the fall will look like. And so part of our work this summer is putting together contingency plans and saying, if we have to, what does it look like to move online? If we can't meet in big groups, how do we support students spiritually if we can't have chapel? Like what sort of things can we prepare now so that in August 20, 10 days before the school year starts, we're not like freaking out or, not prepared for what's coming. So those are probably the biggest things we're thinking about. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I hope it will also be a time to like rest also and read. I feel like there's a lot of books that we've added to our list to read about, like, higher ed and Christian teaching. So hopefully some of that time too, but it will be a good time to think about larger projects because it just during the school year, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Now, do your students have like spiritual or faith support at home, or like is college kind of like the one place that they have that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've done some surveying of our student body and where they come from religiously, and it's pretty diverse. So I would say right now, I would guess 30% are practicing Christians. So they come from a faith community back home where they worship regularly and are involved in some way with religious life and faith. I would say another 30% are baptized. So students who often come from the Russian Orthodox or Greek Orthodox or other Orthodox or Catholic faiths, typically sometimes less practicing. That's not to say that like they're completely not practicing. There are some very devoted Catholic and Orthodox students at LCC, but many are baptized and like identify as Christian, but don't necessarily live out that practice in some sort of way. We try to engage them and encourage them coming to our programs. Like there are often people who do come and show up to things, but yeah, that's sort of like maybe the fringe group. And then we have, I don't know, 40% is what's left. Like that would say they're agnostic, atheist, come from other faiths. We have some Muslim students on campus. And so, you know, that gives you a good picture of, I think, the makeup of campus and where students are coming from. But I think primarily our work is either having conversation about faith and belief and worldview with 70% of students who aren't practicing and aren't engaging a faith, and then about discipleship really heavily with those students who come from faith backgrounds, because there's a lot of formation that has to happen with those students as well, with you know where they're coming from and the different things that they were taught and the way they read scripture and those sorts of things. So we're always trying to balance those two narratives. How are we doing discipleship, and how are we, maybe the word to say is evangelism, how we're doing evangelism.
And I will say one of the nice things about moving online is that we've had a number of students watch chapel online who have never come to chapel in person. Maybe just because it's more accessible, or like, you know, it's not as scary to walk into the auditorium versus just watching online. So that's actually been really encouraging to see too.
And this summer we've encouraged students to join us in a psalm reading challenge or event thing that we're doing. So we actually figured out that about 2 or 3 weeks ago, if we started reading a psalm once a day, or one psalm a day, for the next 150 days, that actually we'd finish the day before classes began in the fall. So we got that put together and invited students into it. And so yeah, we've been reading through the Psalms. We're on Psalm 33 now, I think. 29, yeah. So yeah, 32, I think. Anyway, so we've been doing that, and hopefully that's a good way for students to continue to engage with our community. I've been posting like maybe every other week, like the psalm that day, something about it, or trying to encourage students to continue reading with us. Inviting students, if they haven't been reading, to join us, because it's not like you need to read the first 20 psalms to keep reading the next 130. So yeah, that's one way we're going to try and continue to engage students this summer, particularly our Christian students, but maybe students also who are interested in reading the Bible for the first time, or picking up in a place that's pretty accessible like that. So
what are some challenges you think that your students are facing, and like what are some challenges you guys are facing? Obviously there's the unknown, but other than that, how can the Princeton family pray for you? And
I would say the biggest one now is students are trying to figure out what to do for work over the summer. So I think probably prayer that they would be able to find like solutions to that pretty quick. The problem was that every year a number of students go to the US for a work and travel program through the State Department, where they get placed at like a hospitality sort of
tourism industry, service industry.
Yeah. So so most of them were going to go to the US, and then that got canceled. So I think a lot of people are sort of feeling panicky about what they'll do in order to afford tuition next year. So we've been trying to put together, different solutions, but not that many people are working now anyway. So I think prayer, just that each student who's looking for something would find something that's a good fit for them, or that they can make money. Yeah, because we do have the fear a bit that if students aren't able to find something this summer, then we might lose some students in the fall. So that's probably the biggest one for students, I would say.
Yeah.
At this point.
Well, thanks for joining us. We love hearing what's going on a little bit in Lithuania and how we can pray for you and so on. So we're so glad that we have an opportunity to talk with you this morning for us, this afternoon for you, and we will have our Princeton folk pray for you and your students throughout this whole time.
Yeah, maybe we should, we have a private Princeton community group on Facebook that maybe we could invite you to, and you can post stuff of like how the church can pray for you, and just real quick things like daily or weekly or whatever to keep us updated.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Sweet. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Awesome. See you later. Bye.